So we got the crank sensor replaced. Car's running fantastically now, but the brakes started binding up. The longer you drove the car, the hotter it got, the more and more the brakes would start locking up. It started with the front right, then it went to the front left. Even the rears got involved. Turns out that there's a phenolic spacer, like a resin-based spacer inside of the master cylinder that with age will decide to start expanding. So I've gone ahead and started to tear the master cylinder out. Not too terrible to get this thing out of here. You can see I got a little bit of fluid on that heat shield down there. Not really worried about that. I got a big towel covering the paint and it's been doing a good job. So first I sucked all the fluid out of the reservoir with a giant syringe, dumped it into this Sobe bottle, then popped the reservoir off, caught all the extra fluid, and you've got two lines front and back. I've got those capped right now so they're not leaking fluid everywhere. Those are 11 millimeters and they're very, very soft, so you gotta be careful with them. Use some penetrating fluid a day ahead of time if you wanna make things easy. And then there's just two 13 millimeters holding the master on. So I'm gonna take it off, take it downstairs to the basement shop, put it on the bench and take it apart. So the master cylinder is now all taken apart. Turned out I had the pin style master. So the hole on the right in the forward part of the reservoir actually had a pin in it, this long pin. Thankfully it came out super easily, just used a magnet and it came out. It goes into this slot in this forward moving piece, which operates up here. So to get it out, all you do is depress the piston a little bit, stick your magnet on it, or pliers I guess, and yank it out. Then you have a snap ring back here, that guy. Pull the snap ring out, and then unfortunately it doesn't just come apart that easily. You have to pound it out. So the whole master was here. This is the rearward assembly. Have it clamped between two pieces of soft wood and like super tight. I use a little bit of penetrating lube around the spacer here, and then you just have to pound the master cylinder off. I used a big piece of brass, so it was nice on the master, a little bit softer. You can see it dented in a little bit on the master, and came off pretty easily. So now all we have to do is get the spacer off and sand the inside of it, maybe even sand the outside of it a little bit, because it is not what seals the thing in. You just have to get it clearanced so it stops hanging up on the piston. So the spacer came off, no drama. It's nice and loose when everything's cool. It's just when it's hot, this thing likes to swell up and grab onto the piston. And one more thing I should mention is it's recommended that you put something inside the bore of the piston so it has less tendency to deform and crack when you are clamping it in the vise. So I just stuck a little socket in there. I don't even know what size it is. This is 10 mil. So anything that's just super tight in the bore ought to work. So now we want to check our clearances. From what I read, you want about 0.15 to 0.2 millimeters of clearance on this ID versus that OD. So we'll just measure that real fast. So we've got about 19.98 on the ID of the spacer. And then we've got about 19.91 on the piston. This is my sanding apparatus. I just put a little bit of 400 grit on my finger, and then I'm just spinning the spacer around with my other hand. Just a little bit by bit, taking it down. So let's see how far we got. Just like that, we're up to 20.06 mil. So we've given it about 0.08-ish mil of clearance. I'm going to keep going a little bit further just for safety's sake.